My daughter had another birthday and she wanted to celebrate by doing art and painting with her friends, but she also wanted to incorporate her favorite animal, the fox, into her party, so we came up with a custom-themed Arty Fox Party just for her. Because this was a unique theme, I made a lot of things for her party, but for this video I'm going to focus on just 4 things. The coffee filter banners, the paint chip number 8, the huge custom fox-shaped punchboard, and the super cute multicolored fox cupcakes. This is She's Making Something, and today I'm making a custom birthday party for my one-of-a-kind kid. So the planning for this particular birthday party all started with this little watercolor fox painting that I did for my daughter because she loves foxes and I really wanted to get back to painting. And I saw this YouTube tutorial. It was really easy to follow and I love what came out of it. So I'll post a link to that YouTube video in the description. But this little painting that I did for her really set the tone. It's got foxes, it's got painting, and it helped us choose the colors for her party. So this was really the launching point of this whole idea. So I'm going to start with these watercolor party decorations, and I got this idea from my sister-in-law. She did something similar for her daughter's watercolor birthday party, and it was really easy to make. I mean, literally, they're just coffee filters, and I got a whole bunch of them. I got a pack of 200. I ended up using about 150 of them, but the most important thing is to get the basket kind, not the cone ones. And I'm going to fill these Tupperware up with water, and then we're going to pour the paint into it to create a dip. So I'm going to use spoons to stir it all up. And then because I don't want to make a big mess on my table, I've covered my table with some cardboard and then wrapped that in some wax paper so that as they're drying I can pick them up and move them without causing a big mess. So I'm hoping to get colors that are super vibrant and easy to see. So I probably put too much water in this Tupperware for this, but I'm just taking the craft paint and pouring a bunch of it into the water. And I'm just taking my spoon and I'm going to stir it all up. So this will be really wet, really liquid paint that I'm hoping will act like a watercolor tie-dye. Using the colors from her party, I made red, purple, blue, orange, and yellow water paint. So now that I've turned my acrylic paints into these wet watercolor paints, it's time to do the coffee filters. Okay, so I've got my coffee filters and it's not one, it's about 4 or 5 of them in a stack. And then I'm going to fold it in half again. So I've turned my round coffee filter into like a pie shape. And then I'm just going to dip it into my colors. So I'm going to dip for this one. I'm going to do this and blue. Oh, it soaks it up super easy. The water wants to travel through the coffee filter so you don't have to dunk the whole thing in. Just like a little dip of the end and it almost covers the entire coffee filter. There's some sort of science term for that. Water adhesion. The water wants to stick to itself and so as it goes up the coffee filter it drags the rest of the water up behind it. So now my coffee filters are all painted blue. I'm going to very gently pull them apart and set them down on the wax paper to dry out. And then I'm just going to do this again and again and again. Grab another stack of 4 to 5 coffee filters, pick a different color, dip them in, spread them out. So you can dip it in different colors. So I made some that were solid color and then I did some that were two-toned. Some I think I even tried 3 different colors all at once. I like to fold and dip just because it was faster because I was doing a lot of them. But my kids really wanted to get involved and why not? It's her party. So I gave them a bunch of coffee filters and some paintbrushes and some droppers, those little science dropper things, and they just had a blast. They sat there with their own placemat and wax paper and colored away, and they came up with some really pretty designs. My solid and even dipped ones combined with their crazy artsy watercolor ones, it was really beautiful. So we sat and colored coffee filters for about 30 minutes and had a blast and came up with all these really cute fun designs. And so we just left them on the wax paper to dry. So each one of these watercolor patterns that we came up with it's actually a stack of like 4 or 5 coffee filters. So as they started to dry and come apart, I very carefully peeled off the layers and separated them out so they would dry a little faster. And you can see here that once they fully dried, the white of the coffee filter came back. They weren't transparent anymore, so the colors did fade a little bit, but you can still see them and they're still vibrant enough, and I'm happy with it. So I've got this huge stack of dried coffee filters and then just some curling ribbon that I had in my closet, and I'm going to combine these two to create my birthday banner. So I take the coffee filter and I fold it in half to create a crease down the middle so I know where the middle line is. And then I take this regular old school glue stick and put a line around the outside and down the middle. And then the curling ribbon goes right on that fold line and it'll stick together and it'll dry to the ribbon. It'll be nice and solid and won't move around too much. And I just sat and did this over and over and over while I watched a TV show late at night after my kids went to bed. And it was easy and it was simple. So I did say I made a lot because I wanted this visual right here of these coffee filters everywhere, going every which way, making it seem festive and carefree, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite things about this birthday party. So easy, so budget friendly, but still had an impact. So they went left, they went right, they went diagonal, they crisscrossed each other, and then I hung some up over this paint chip card number 8. And I really like to make a custom number for their birthdays every year so that we can look at pictures and we can see how old they were turning, the theme of their party, and what they liked. And it's just one of those things to remember. Plus my kids like to take it down from the wall and keep it in their bedrooms. They hang it up in their bedrooms for like months after their party, and I just love doing it for them. So I had these huge pieces of cardboard from when we bought new mirrors for our master bathroom. And so I sketched out a pretty large number 8 on this cardboard and just cut it out. So now I have my cardboard number 8 and it is ready to be decorated. This one is going to be decorated using the free paint chip samples you can get at the store. I think they have another name. Remember, I call them paint chips. But these strips of the different colors that you can pick up for free from the paint store. I literally walked into the paint store and went over to the paint wall and just like collected this stack of paint samples, and nobody cared. But anyways, I collected a bunch from the colors of the party, and so now I'm going to figure out how I want to put them on the number 8. I thought about doing it just randomly all over the place, but I'm thinking I'm going to organize it with a color in the middle and going out to the ends. So I'm going to lay them out and see how it works. But I am just going to attach them with like glue. I'm using clear glue because my kids were making slime and that was nearby on the shelf. So I started out with the idea of having yellow in the middle and working my way out to blue at the ends. But I looked at that for a while, decided I didn't like it, and I flipped it around and I decided blue should go in the middle and yellow on the ends. I like that one better. I don't know why, I just did. So that's what I'm going to do. So now that I've figured out my idea, it's time to glue them onto the number 8. I'm not worried about how neat the edges are, but I do want to make sure the entire cardboard 8 is covered. So as I'm gluing them around, I kept to the pattern I decided, making sure those white lines didn't line up all the time. The cardboard part of the 8 is fully covered, and I used a lot of glue. So once I had fully glued down all the paint chips and I liked the way it looked, I did go over it one more time with another layer of the clear glue, hoping to seal it in and kind of Mod Podge it down a little bit. But once they're sealed and fully attached to the 8, I wanted to clean up those edges so you could see the 8 again. So I flipped it over, took a box cutter, and went around the cardboard to cut off all the pieces of the paint chips that were hanging over the edge. And here's Charlie again. He's my crafting kitty. He always has to stop by and see what I'm doing. Hi, Charlie. So once the edges are all cut off, you can see the number 8 again, nice and clear, and I really like how that looks. I like making the big numbers because it acts as a focal point for the decorations and really helps set the theme of the party. So I did have some balloons in the entryway of the home, but other than that, the number 8 and the watercolor banners were the only decorations I really put together for the party. And as for activities, the main thing she wanted to do was do some painting with her friends. So I found this idea on Pinterest. Each girl got her own canvas, and I used painter's tape to tape off their initial. And then I just gave them brushes and sponges and different textures and a bunch of paints, and they could just go at it, have a blast, decorate it however they wanted, cover the entire thing. And then when they're done and it's dry, we pull off the painter's tape, and they have this bright white initial surrounded by their beautiful artwork. And I loved it. It was a super easy activity. The other thing we did was a punch board. Normally I make a piñata, but my daughters and I decided that for this birthday party, we wanted a punch board. I wanted a big punch board, and I wanted it shaped like a fox to help incorporate her favorite animal into her birthday party, which meant I had to make one on my own. So the cardboard that I used for the number 8, we bought 2 mirrors, so I had another huge piece of cardboard from the other mirror, and I'm going to use that to make my punch board. The other thing I used is a bunch of these little clear cups that I got from Walmart, and these are what's going to hold the prizes behind the circles. So the first thing I have to do is figure out how to make it look like a fox. So I spent a lot of time arranging and lining up all these cups as best I could. I probably could have made things easier on myself and measured it out and made sure they were aligned just so. I didn't feel like doing it at the time because I just wanted it done, but the OCD part of me is looking at this later and going, those are not lined up, and I'm like super mad at myself. But that's okay, it ended up looking cute in the end. Kids don't care if they're perfectly lined up anyways. So after I had them all laid out in the pattern and the shape that I think will work best, I'm now going to take some pencil and I'm going to mark where each of these cups are so I can cut out the holes. So I have all these little circles marked out on my cardboard ready to cut out, but before I started cutting, I thought of something, and I'm really glad I thought of it. As I was tracing the cups, I was tracing around the outside of the cups. So this circle is actually slightly bigger than the cup. So if I cut it out on this line, then the cup will just go right on through the hole and it won't have anything to stick to. So when I cut them out, I'm actually going to cut them out just a little inside the line so the hole is smaller than the outside of the cup. And cutting out all these little circles took so much longer than I anticipated, and the cardboard was kind of hard to cut through, and I hurt my wrist from cutting out all these little circles, but it was worth it. My daughter loved it. So after all my circles were cut out, I decided I didn't want the punch board to be brown. I wanted to have more contrast, and so I decided to cover it with black construction paper. I had a huge stack of black construction paper left over from my daughter's Minnie Mouse birthday party, and so I'm just going to glue a whole bunch of black paper over these circles. And then once that glue dried, it was back again with the box cutter cutting out circles. This one didn't hurt so much because paper's a whole lot easier to cut through than cardboard, but maybe next time I'll give myself a few more days before I try to cut more circles with a box cutter. So now that the front of my punch board is all cut out and all black and looking very sleek, it's time to attach the cups. And there are a couple different ways to attach the cups. One of them is to stick them through the front, and the kids can reach in and grab stuff, and the tissue paper would attach to the front of the cup with a rubber band. And this is helpful if you want to reuse a punch board, because then the cups stay put and you just switch out your tissue paper whenever you're having another party. I'm not planning on reusing this one because it's a custom shape. So I'm going to go with the other way to attach cups, which is to glue them onto the back of the cardboard. And this is why I needed to cut those circles a little bit smaller. So there will be some cardboard to glue the cup to. So because the tissue paper needs to be in between the cup and the cardboard, it needs to go on first. So I cut my white, black, and orange tissue paper in a bunch of little squares, and then once again use that magical glue stick to attach them to the back of my punch board. Because the orange and the white are a little more see-through, and I didn't want them to have any inkling of what the prizes are behind the tissue paper, I am going to double up the tissue paper, and it's still pretty easy to punch through and get to the prizes, but it'll make it a little more opaque. So for the white and the orange, I doubled up on the tissue paper, But I didn't do that for the black because just one sheet of tissue paper was enough to make it not see-through. So this is what it looks like from the back. All those little tissue paper squares looking very much like that pixelated fox face I found on the internet. But when I flip it around on the other side, it's all these little circles to punch through, and you can't see any of that extra tissue paper in the back, and it looks a little neater and a little cleaner. I think it looks like the fox picture that I saw on the internet. There were a few people I talked to who didn't know it was a fox at first, but as soon as I said fox, they saw it right away. So it's close enough, I guess. But because this is such a big punch board, I'm actually going to fold in the edges, turn it into more of a box, and then I think I'm going to add some supports going up and down to give it a little more structure. So it's finally time to add the cups to this punch board, and I've already filled them with the prizes. There's some candy, there's some necklaces, there's little purses and lip glosses and nail polish and little things I thought little girls might be excited to have. Most of this stuff I either got from Walmart or Party City. So here's the box. I folded it in, made it a little strong, and added these supports going across. So as the kids punch through, hopefully it won't bend and break, and it'll stay nice and strong. So I attached the cups to the punch board using a little bit of hot glue. The most nerve-wracking thing about this was tipping the cup onto the tissue paper without having all the prizes spill out and get onto the glue. And I'm thinking now I probably could have just had the punch board sitting upright, and instead of putting the cups completely upside down onto the tissue paper, I could have tilted them sideways onto the tissue paper, and then I would have had much less stress about all the prizes sticking out. I really should have done that. That would have been so much better. But each little circle got its own little cup full of prizes hiding right behind it. So here's the front of the punch board, which you've already seen, and it's standing up on its own since I turned it into a box. But right behind, hiding behind all these flaps, are the little cups full of prizes. So as they punch through the tissue paper, they get to pull out their prizes and enjoy it. And it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I made one this big. We had a lot of girls at the party, and each one got 3 times going up to the punch board and picking out their prizes. So those were our activities, but we also had food, and she had a Saturday morning birthday party, and so we had donuts and fresh fruit and sausage biscuits, but this is a birthday party, so we also had cupcakes, and I made these adorable fox cupcakes to bring in her favorite animal one more time in the party. So I've just got some chocolate cupcakes that I've made, and I've got a bunch of buttercream in the red, orange, purple, and blue, plus a whole bunch of white and chocolate chips. And I got this idea from somebody else on YouTube, and I will post the link to the original video in the description because she makes hers a lot neater and cleaner than I do. But the basic idea is first you frost the cupcake with the base color, and then you smooth it all out with a knife so it's kind of nice and flat. And then you use some white buttercream and you pipe the outline of 2 little cheek shapes. So in my head, I kind of split the cupcake into thirds. 1/3 was the top color that stayed base, and the other 2/3 were the cheeks. But I didn't fill in those 2/3 completely white. I left a strip down the middle of them for the fox's nose. And then once those are outlined and filled in, once again, take the knife and try to smooth those out a little bit. Then I used a leaf tip to pipe some ears that matched the base color of the frosting. So I did change out to a different leaf tip after this first one. And then after the ears, you just take 3 chocolate chips, place 1 for the nose and 2 for the eyes, and it's done. You have a really cute fox cupcake. So after we changed out the leaf tip, then I made a whole bunch more in the orange, red, purple, and blue to match the colors of her party. And I told myself I wasn't going to do a cake this time. It was just going to be cupcakes for her birthday party, but I had leftover batter from making the cupcakes, so I made a tiny 6-inch cake. And it was super late at night, and I had leftover frosting from the cupcakes, and I had no plan. Frosted it and scraped it off and tried something else and scraped that off and did something else, and it just turned out like this. But I am really glad that I made this little cake because it was the perfect thing to hold her candle as we sang happy birthday to her. I did a lot of work for this party, but it was within budget and so uniquely my daughter, and she loved every bit of it. If you also liked one or more of my creations, please let me know in the comments and hit subscribe to get notified the next time I'm making something. Thanks for watching.